It's August, and we have NHL playoff hockey. Can you believe it? My name is Mike Perkins, and we're coming in hot. Good afternoon. My name is Mike Perkins, and we have a great show coming up for you right now. Both myself and my partner, Eric Pessolano, have some great thoughts on the NHL playoffs, and we're really excited to talk to you guys about it today.
Yeah, I'm going to start yelling soon because I'm not happy. You know I'm not happy. We were texting about it last night. We'll get around to it.
We'll get into Colorado-Dallas shortly here. But, Eric, just some preliminary thoughts on the playoffs. We had some ramp up to where we're at right now. It's exciting to kind of see the players kind of build up into more of a playoff mode. Initially, it wasn't playoff hockey. We can all agree to that. But where we're at today is a long ways from those preliminary games, those exhibition games before the playoffs and play-in round started, to where we're at today. It's getting better and better each time we watch.
Yeah, I think the 4 series that we've gotten down to with the final 8 are going to be fantastic. We're a game in on 3 out of the 4 series, 2 games in with Colorado-Dallas. We'll talk about that in a minute. But, you know, it's so weird to sit around and still be able to watch games when it's over 100 degrees. Normally this is like the dog days of summer for baseball.
We're watching baseball right now.
Instead, we get hockey, which makes you feel a little cooler on the inside when you're watching a game. But I love the fact that the NHL chose 2 cities, one in the east and one in the westish.
And it's worked out pretty darn good.
And we've been able to watch games all day long.
And probably the best news of all of it is the testing that's gone on. They've done a fantastic job, and the players have done a good job themselves to make sure that they're staying safe, to make sure that they're staying healthy, which is, as an athlete, it's probably the number one priority as an athlete, is to make sure that you are healthy, that you're eating right, you're getting enough sleep, you're getting enough fluids, especially when you're playing in the summer months. And I know the temperatures may be a little bit different in those 2 places, in Edmonton and Toronto, but summertime, it usually brings humidity to cities like that. So, you have to really kind of pay attention to your health as an athlete, especially when you're playing at that level, and the expectations of yourselves as players, your coaches, and of course your fans who aren't there, but they're still cheering and they're still watching every move you make.
Yeah, that's true. I think the NHL has done a great job, just like you said, with the testing protocols, keep everybody safe. I think your little speech there about how they've cared and taken the precautions is a backhanded slam at the NBA, which I love because they're trying to sneak people in and out of the bubble.
It ran through my brain.
I could see it
as I said it, but I think when it comes to COVID and it comes to coronavirus, we're all susceptible to a certain extent. And one of the best things you can do is take care of yourself and make sure that you're eating right, you're getting enough sleep, and you're getting enough fluids. So to clarify, you shouldn't go to a casino, shouldn't go for a night out on the town and come back to the baseball field. I mean, come back to the hockey rink the next day. Or invite people into the bubble.
I mean, I will tell you, at least the NBA has a bubble. How baseball's made it this far, I don't know. That's a whole other topic for another day. But
so let's get into it here a little bit.
Yeah.
Again, we'll touch on your Dallas, Colorado in just a second. But let's start off with Vancouver and Vegas.
Yeah.
2 teams that couldn't be more different in my mind. Vancouver, a very young team, and up and coming. They have some very good hockey players: Hughes, Horvat, Brock Besser, just to name a couple that really pop out to me. And then on the other side, you have a team that has a myriad of weapons. The Knights can play multiple styles of hockey. They can play up and down the ice. They can play a rough, gritty style of hockey. And whatever you bring at them, they can play that kind of hockey. And it's what makes them so tough to play against. And they've done just a fantastic job in their few short years of having a team to becoming serious playoff Stanley Cup contenders every year.
I think the first point you made there, we saw in Game 1, was how wildly different these two teams are. You got a really young team and you got a really deep team. And it was 5-0. Vegas won the game. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that in this series. I love what Vancouver's been able to do. They've been able to knock off some opponents that nobody thought they would to get to this point. I mean, you took out the defending Cup champs, for crying out loud, to get to this point.
Vancouver comes out and they want to play an up-and-down style. They want to pass, they want to skate, they want to move, which is their game. And Vegas says, okay.
Well, we've got a way to counteract that. Exactly.
Let's play that style.
Yeah,
so
they can, and they can.
They go up and down the ice. Then, when things start going sideways for the Canucks, they say, okay, let's get in their face a little bit. And then Vegas says, okay, let's play that game too.
Yeah. They can do everything. Look, there's a reason they're the number one team in the West, right? This isn't a fluke. I mean, everybody still likes to complain about the expansion draft from a couple of years ago when they first came in and they get to the final, and then last year, of course, they had the first-round exit with the controversial ending against San Jose. But this is a team that, out of the 3 seasons they've been in the league, this is the best team they've had. And I don't disagree with that. I think they're the favorites right now.
I believe they're the favorites as well, and we'll talk a little bit about that again later. But as far as Vegas goes, they have everything except for one part right now, which is a question mark, and what's going to happen with the goaltending.
Look,
can Robin Lehner play to the level that the Knights want, or do they just have that good a defense that they don't have to worry about it?
Both. Now here's an off-ice issue that they're dealing with when it comes to the goaltending. You see Marc-Andre Fleury's agent tweet that photo with Fleury with a sword going through his back with the name DeBoer on it, right? With Coach Pete DeBoer not playing Fleury, and what politics may be going on behind the scenes, or is it just that Leonard's got the hot hand right now because we see it in the playoffs every year? You have the hot hand, you're going to keep playing the games. That's just how it goes, especially when it comes to goaltending in the postseason. With Lehner, right now, it looks a whole lot like the team's playing well in front of him, and he doesn't have to worry about it.
Well, the good news for the Knights is they are professionals, so all the behind-the-scenes stuff, they're leaving it there, and when they step on the ice, they're just playing hockey.
Do you think that's going to hinder them at all going forward? We know this thing only came to light a few days ago. Is this going to hurt maybe going down the line?
It can.
I don't think it will. But if it can, is it going to be their undoing? I don't think so. But like you say,
I sure would hate to see that. But I do think, from a coach's perspective, I think you try to make decisions that are best for your team. And if you have a goaltender that's playing good hockey at the time, you're going to try to keep riding that. And good news for the Knights, they have goaltending for days. And that's a nice thing to have. And I guess the one thing I would say to Marc-Andre Fleury is when you get your chance again, don't give it back.
Don't give it back.
Don't give it back. And that's the thought process that professional athletes have to have, is that, when circumstances change, you have to be prepared. And when you're prepared, you don't let other people in the back door.
Well, if anybody knows about that, it's him, right? He dealt with it in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
So here he is right back at it again. Don't let your chance go away if they put you back in there.
So let's talk. What happens from here? Series is 1-0 right now in favor of the Knights.
Yep. At the time we recorded this, it's 1-0.
Where do we go?
I think this series doesn't last much longer. I think Vancouver can sneak one in. It will be Knights in no more than 5.
4-1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm thinking 4-1 myself. So, anyway.
And that's what my bracket says, too, so I'm going to stick with that.
With that being said, let's move on to Colorado-Dallas. And I know this is a...
How long is the show supposed to be?
This is a sore spot for you, obviously, as an Avalanche fan. They have a very nice hockey team, but what has happened to the Avalanche right now is they've run into a hockey team that plays a completely different style than they do. The Dallas Stars are in-your-face, gritty, grindy, up and down the ice with a few key skill guys in some right places, and they've gotten some unbelievable goaltending along the way. So I am a fan of the Avalanche too. I like their team. That top line, Landeskog, McKinnon, and Rantanen, those 3 players are as good as you get in the NHL.
It's the best line in the NHL. I don't think it's
arguably.
I'm not arguing it. It's the best line in the NHL.
I think there's one other line, and we'll talk about them in a little bit.
Okay.
But but that line is arguably the best line in the NHL. There's no doubt about it. With what McKinnon does, what Rantanen does, and what Landeskog does to kind of tie everything together for that group.
McKinnon's going to win a Hart in the next 3 years.
For sure.
Easily.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind on that. So let's talk the first 2 games.
Yeah.
What has been the difference in your mind between the Avalanche and the Stars? And then I'm going to give you – and to me, there is one play that epitomizes the series to date.
Okay. So whatever play that is that you're talking about, I think it has to do with something that we celebrated on August the 24th, right? It was Mamba Day here in California and around the country, around the world. It's the Mamba mentality. They don't have it. They don't have it yet. And you see that a lot with this team, that so far in their first – 7 games they've played so far in the playoffs, they have not come from behind to win a game yet. And they struggled the first 2 games against Arizona. First 3 games because they lost game 3. And then the last 2 games, right? Then they remembered who they were and went out and smacked them around 7-1 in both games 4 and 5. Now you come out and you have Dallas, who is not Arizona. And this is a team, remember, they lost all 4 games in the regular season to Dallas. They beat them in the round robin, but as you mentioned, and we talked about it before, it was basically a glorified exhibition game.
Yep.
Seeding doesn't matter in this year's Stanley Cup playoffs. I guess it does for matchup purposes, but as far as home ice advantage or anything else, it doesn't matter. You got to beat everybody, right? And then they get behind in game 1, and you can see in every single member of the team's face, including Nathan McKinnon, that they're just, well, they beat us. And then they just start skating around there like they're trying way too hard, and they get out of their game completely. When they get behind, they lose their mentality of what they're trying to do, and once they're behind, the game is over. And that's what we saw last night. They were up 2-0. They had a couple of calls go against them, one of which you and I talked before we started taping, I think was questionable at best. But when you do face those situations, that's where championship teams rise to the occasion, and they don't.
So what happened next then?
They gave up a goal in 10 seconds, down 3-on-5.
Then what
3
happened
against
after
5.
that?
They gave up another one within the next 30 seconds after that. And now
what goal,
it's 2-2.
What goal was that?
What do you mean, which goal was that?
Yeah. So the 4th goal.
Oh, the fourth, Dallas's 4th goal?
Yes.
Oh, I'm talking about the 2 that tied the game on the power play.
Okay.
All right? Then you get a bounce that happens to teams that are fighting their way and trying to win a championship. The one that went off of Radulov, off of his shoulder.
Okay.
And there's nothing that Francouz could have done about that.
That's
happens.
a fluke.
It's a fluke.
That's a fluke.
And those are the benefits of teams that are wanting to go out and compete and win a championship. You get those bounces. To
me, that's a little bit of a defensive breakdown. It's a miss-stick position there.
Okay.
Ben just throws the puck to the net in front.
Yeah.
And it starts bouncing off people.
Yeah, and it wasn't even to the front of the net, really.
Defensively, there should have been a stick there.
Don't get me started on Colorado's defense.
In the defensive zone, you're defending players, whether it's your defenseman down low or your center down low or your wings high. Sticks have to be in the right positions. If the stick is in a right spot there, it skips off the stick and maybe goes out of play across the ice and up and out of play, or it goes over everybody's head and hits the glass on the other side. Nothing hurt, nothing lost.
Yeah. Okay, so now you're down 3-2.
Yeah.
And then the 4th goal happens. The jamming the goal home.
The epitome of the series right there.
Yeah.
It's a lost race on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Puck goes to the front of the net. Pad down on the ice. Jam, puck in the back of the net.
Well, and go back, not in the back of the net.
Well, across the line.
Allegedly. But
it
looked
across the line.
You look all those angles they had on video, you couldn't see anything. And the referees even said, based on video review, we couldn't make a clear decision, so the call on the ice stands. How on earth did he see that from down in the corner that it went in?
I don't disagree with you. I think that's a bad explanation, but I do believe it was a goal.
So I know for a fact that had they ruled no goal and they reviewed it, it would have stayed no goal. It's one of those where whatever the call on the ice was.
That's part of the review that I don't like.
Okay, which is tough. They didn't, they added 12 cameras per game this year for the playoffs, and they still weren't able to see it properly. But How on earth are you going to rule that a goal? How often, and you've been in hockey a lot longer than I have, and you played the game, I did not. How often does a referee make a call based on the reaction of the offense? Because that's how that call was made. When those sticks went up, he ruled goal.
You know, it brings up a memory of mine in college. I had a backhand. I stepped in the middle of the slot, took a backhand. It was low on the ice, and I threw it at the net low on the ice. And it looked like it went underneath the goalie in the back of the net. I raised my stick. The referees pointed it was a goal. It wasn't a goal. It was underneath the goaltender's pad.
Yeah.
So you're right.
It happens.
The reaction of the offensive team does dictate sometimes the referee's decision. It does.
Now, as animated as I'm getting about this, if that goal doesn't count, it's 3-2. And if my memory serves me right, the final score was 5-2. They still didn't score another one, so it doesn't matter. But it still buried their mentality. And they don't have what it takes up here to be a championship team yet.
So prior to the show, we were just talking about this. The adverse reactions to missed calls or non-calls or calls of referees and linesmen that affect the game later.
Yes. It started with the initial 5-on-3 that Dallas tied the game with. That Corey Perry got away with slashing on Francouz.
Yep.
And they instead elected to give a penalty to Colorado, who was protecting their goaltender.
That is a prime example of things that happen in hockey games quite regular, where a referee misses a call, calls it on the other side, and it has a direct reaction on the game. It's very unfortunate, but I will say that is part of the nature of sports. Bad calls are part of it.
Yeah.
It always takes me back to the umpire in Major League Baseball that told a story about how the guy was stealing second, and he slid in. He was safe, but the umpire came up and he punched the guy out, and the guy says, "Well, what am I?" He says, "You're out." And he says, "Why? I was safe, clearly safe." He says, "Because 60,000 people think that you're out."
Yeah.
Right, and I just think that in sports, you're going to get bad calls, and you just have to deal with it.
Well, at least we don't have to deal with the crowd influencing anything now.
Well, but you can see that whoever's on the in-arena noise is putting the buttons to, when a team scores, you hear the cheering. So I found it kind of interesting.
But it's happening for both teams, though.
And even on some hits, too.
Yeah.
So, I found that quite interesting and actually kind of weird, to tell you the truth.
But and again, to your point, I know it sounds like we're arguing, and really we're not. We probably should be. But that call and how bad calls go against you in the playoffs, you've got to rise up and kill that thing off. And what happens? Ian Cole cross-checks. However many, a minute later? A little less than a minute later. Now you got 77 seconds worth of a 5-on-3. Zero chance they get out of there with that. Why? Because they don't have the mentality to step up and rise to occasions. And that's what we're seeing out of them right now in these first two games. They got to, skate circles around Arizona, because I love Arizona, and they've got a good core that's coming up, and they're going to be competitive one day, but they're just not there yet. And their series win over Nashville was, I think, just a accumulation of having the layoff and just getting a team at the right time.
Yep.
But they had no chance against the Avalanche. And I picked Colorado to win that series in 5 on my bracket and nailed that one. And this series, I didn't have Colorado playing Dallas. I had Colorado playing St. Louis. But I had Colorado losing in 6, and I think it stays that way for me. They're still losing in 6.
So Dallas up by 2 at this point right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be a 4-2 series. I think 6 games is about right.
Unless, and again, we're taping the show before Game 3. Unless Dallas wins Game 3, then it's over in 5.
Unless Dallas wins Game 3, then it's over in 5.
Yeah.
But I think, what's the latest on goaltending with Colorado? What's going on?
Look, I know one of the big points that I haven't mentioned so far is the fact that Eric Johnson and Phil Grubauer are out.
Yeah.
Both with injuries.
What's the prognosis for both of them? Do we know?
Still out indefinitely. We know how the NHL is with their injuries and what was injured.
Tight-lipped on everything, man. I can't.
Don't want to say anything.
I have not seen anything or heard anything.
Unfit to play.
Yeah.
And they're going to be out for Game 3. We're not going to see them in the next one.
They need Grubauer back.
They do need Grubauer back.
He is a key piece to that team when he's playing right and he makes saves, because Colorado is a team that needs those saves by a goalie. He needs to make 4 or 5 key saves every game for them to win hockey games at a high level.
Yeah, and he also needs his defense to step up, and Colorado is not a defensive team.
They're not.
Not at all. Their defense is very, very weak, and they continue to go out and try to find offense, and it doesn't matter if you're losing 7-6. And look what happened. You got a Dallas team who's now scored 17 goals in their last 3 playoff games. And 9 of those against Colorado.
I'm sticking with Dallas in 6 also. Sorry.
I said 9 against Colorado. It was 10 against Colorado, 5-5.
You gonna be okay?
No. I'm never gonna be okay. I want it to be 2001 again. 7-game series win over New Jersey. Ray Bourque raising his first cup. I'm not getting that again, am I?
Well, our favorite
not with Ray
Avalanche.
Bourque, anyway.
Well, Ray Bourque is an awesome player, but he's not my favorite Avalanche of all time.
Mine neither.
My favorite Avalanche is up in the box up
Same.
there, overseeing the game.
Put together a good team.
Yeah.
Just needs to focus on defense a little bit more, and I think that'll be the next logical step for the team in the future, and come back next year and figure out how to play defense instead of think you can score.
I think the
every
Avalanche
game.
are in good hands with Burnaby Joe.
Yeah.
He's a
I
great
agree.
hockey mind, and he's just so unassuming in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at him there, he's not wearing the big suits, and he's not, he's just up there, and he's a hockey guy. And to me, he reminds me a lot of Steve Yzerman in that sense.
Don't tell me that.
Oh, they're cut from the same cloth.
I don't want to hear it, though.
Well, I'm sorry to
You
tell
know
you.
why.
Yeah, well, sorry. Anyway, moving on. Let's move to the East now.
Yeah.
And probably a series that I'm enjoying and will continue to enjoy, and because I'm a big fan of the coach of one of the teams.
Oh.
Right?
Okay.
The Islanders and Flyers. Islanders jump out to a 1-0 lead.
Mm-hmm.
They have a team that is almost unassuming at times, where people look at them and say, the Islanders, they haven't been good since the 80s.
Yeah.
Right? And they have put together a squad that just has a lot of the right pieces. And, in fact, you take a look at one of their defensemen, Green, who was a mainstay with the Devils for years, and all of a sudden he's in the mix and making big plays for them.
I'm sure Devils fans love to hear that.
Well, they're mad, especially that he
moving to Brooklyn.
Yes, exactly.
/ Long Island.
Well, back to Long Island.
Back to Long Island. Yeah.
But the Islanders, to me, really epitomize a team because I don't think that they, aside from Barzal, they don't have superstars.
Not yet.
Not
they
yet.
They will. Beauvillier is going to be one.
He's a fun hockey player to watch. But I think they have a couple other keys, and I got to make mention of a couple of Minnesota guys, Brock Nelson and Anders Lee, who are just animals out there. They just get the job done. They play their game. They do what they do and keep battling through. And right now, this is probably the tightest series in my mind.
I think so, too.
But I think the difference is Barry Trotz.
Okay. I think this is the most underrated series of the 4 remaining.
Yes.
I think it's going to get the least amount of focus nationwide. On the East Coast, it's probably going to get the most because you got 2 East teams.
It'll get quite a
there.
bit on the East Coast.
I like what the Islanders did in Game 1, that 4-0 win. They said, we don't care who you are. We're going to come out here and we're going to knock you around. Philly's the 1 seed, right?
Islanders just played hockey.
Yeah.
They just were up and down
really
the ice,
did.
And they were gutting it out in the corners, and they were banging away at the front of the net, and they did all the little things that it takes to win playoff hockey games.
They could come out here and scrap their way to a 6 or 7 game series victory.
Yes.
If Philadelphia doesn't figure out what they need to do. But, Philly lost Game 1 in their first series, and they came out and remembered how to play the game, and now here they are again.
Don't get me wrong, I like the Flyers, but they're not a smash mouth in your face kind of team that I expect from the Flyers. I think if they were a little bit more of that, they would have a little bit more substance to them, and they would probably have some more longevity in a playoff run. But they don't have. You see, Vegas is what the Flyers should be, right?
Yeah.
You want to go? You want to throw down? Let's go. You want to skate up and down the ice? Let's go. That to me is what the Flyers should be.
Should be.
But they're not. And that's why just going to tell you right now. It's Islanders in 7.
Wow.
It's going to go 7.
I think it's going to go 7 also. I'm taking Philly in 7.
Yeah, I definitely think the difference maker in all this is Barry Trotz. I think he will find a way. He's a winner. He gets his players to play for him. They love him. They'll go through a brick wall for him. And when it comes to hockey, and I think head coaches in a lot of sports are effective from a X's and O's standpoint and from a mentality standpoint. But I think Barry Trotz brings another element to it, and I just can't put my finger on what it is. I heard him speak one time. I was mesmerized by what he had to say. I enjoy what he does with his groups, and the Washington Capitals are morons for letting him go.
Yeah, I agree with that. By the way, I know we do the show outside at Southern California, but that really got your engines revving, didn't they? There's a street right next to us over here. Let me look at the goaltending real quick for New York with Varlamov, who is the first Islander ever to throw back-to-back shutouts in the playoffs.
Yep.
Ever.
Not even Billy Smith could do it.
Man, what team let him get away?
Yeah.
Anyway, no, I like Philadelphia in 7. I think the experience is just it's a little bit more than what the Islanders have seen in the postseason. Yes, it's a different postseason year. I get it. First time these two teams have met in the playoffs since 1987. How about that? But I just, for no other reason than a little bit more experience, a little bit more grit, I like Philadelphia in 7.
The only thing I like about the Flyers is that Jacob Voracek plays Billy Joel before they go out on the ice. So
for what other reason, get your Jacob Voracek jerseys.
Yes. So anyway, I'm still sticking with the Islanders.
All right.
Barry Trotz is the difference.
So we've differed. It's the first time we've differed out of these series.
Yep. And we'll see what goes on with the next one here because I know where you're going. I know where I'm going. So this is going to be an interesting conversation. But I also think.
By the way, you don't know where I'm going. Anyway, go ahead.
And you don't know where I'm going.
Apparently not.
Okay. So, Boston, Tampa.
This is where the eyes are on this series.
Bruins, Lightning.
Yeah.
Probably, aside from the Knights, the two best teams in the NHL.
And I think maybe the newest, hottest rivalry in the league.
The newest, hottest, but not to the players because I've heard many of them talk about it. They hate each other.
Yeah.
And they always have hated each other. So, as far as I'm concerned right now, the difference at this point is that the best players for the Bruins are getting it done, and Tampa is not.
And we're only one game in.
We are only one game in.
At the time of this taping.
Yeah, but
I'm going to keep saying that.
But the Bruins set the tempo. They set the pace. That top line, which you want to argue whether Colorado had the best line in the NHL, well, I hate to tell you, the Boston Bruins top line is vying for that top line in the NHL.
You can tell me all you want. It's good to be me right now if those are the top two lines in the league.
It is good to be you. There's no doubt. And even the Rat, who a lot of people hate, which I love.
That's probably why Tampa hates them.
And I love. Marchand is. I don't know how he does it. He just keeps getting it done. He finds a way to put pucks in the back of the net.
Skin.
He gets under people's skin. He plays and he's like 5'8".
A guy who did that to a much lesser extent and not so in your face about it, getting under your skin, used to play right down the street here. Now he's in Dallas. That's Corey Perry.
Well, and a much different stature.
That's what I mean. Yeah. It's a different stature of it, but the same result. You're still annoying everybody, and they're still hating you for it. And you're scoring. Ultimately,
I think Brad Marchand will get more done production-wise, at the end of his career than Corey Perry will.
I agree with that.
But I think some of that has to do with who he's playing with. You got to mention Pasternak and his ability.
Great to have him
put
back.
The puck in the back of the net.
They need him.
I think without him, if he was out for any extended period of time, they would be done.
He's the first Bruin ever to win the Richard Trophy. Leading scorer in the league.
It doesn't surprise me because the Bruins have always been, they're like a gang.
Yeah.
They're like a gang.
There's never one guy.
When you play the Bruins, it's everybody,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to deal with everybody. And even the old days, Don Cherry, he lived on that kind of mentality. He lived with that culture. He wanted that team to go in and just be a gang and muck it up and battle and compete. And that's the way the Bruins have. I mean, it suits the city. That's the way the city is, right? The people that live there,
that is true.
They're blue collar. They're in your face. They're, it's just the way Boston is.
Look, going forward for them, I just can't get over their series against Carolina, and I know Carolina's another one of those up and coming teams in the league.
That's a good hockey team
with the likes of Vancouver, with the likes of what Arizona will be a little bit further down the line. That's going to turn some heads, and there's going to be a bunch of household names on that team that you didn't know that you should now. And that it felt to me that if you watched that series against Carolina, Boston won it in 5. It felt like they lost all 5 games. And I don't know how that's possible. Carolina outplayed them for 5 games, and they still won 4 of those 5, did Boston.
Experience.
Exactly.
Experience.
Exactly. And for a team that they're up against right now, they took game 1. They had a 3-0 lead and let 2 in late and nearly let it all go away. I picked Tampa to go to the finals at the start of these playoffs. I'm still picking them to go to the finals. Tampa wins in 7.
So I have a message for the Carolinas, the Vancouvers, the Maple Leafs, up-and-coming teams, young teams, that there's a model already in place in the NHL, and if you want to win, and you want to win consistently, and you want to make deep runs in the playoffs, all you got to do is look to Sin City and see what they're doing there, and replicate that.
They don't get a draft though.
You don't need 5 guys making the bulk of your money.
Yeah, that's true. You don't.
Toronto, by the way, right? Which I love to watch. Like, I love to watch that team.
Yeah.
But they wasted all their money on 5 guys. And then the rest of the team is nothing. Look at Vegas. They spread the wealth. They have the right pieces of the puzzle here. They have the right pieces of the puzzle there.
It's eventually going to collapse on them. But they're in their window right now.
They're in their window.
So they've got another good 5 years of being all right.
Yeah, well, I think if somebody knows the model and how to create it, they can keep plugging pieces into spots. So when player A moves for whatever reason, you just find somebody else to plug into that spot. Next man up into that position.
All right, so I had Tampa in 7. Who do you have?
I picked Boston in 7.
So we both picked the opposite of what we thought.
Which is really hard for me to say because I'm a John Cooper fan, right? And I really like that team. But I just don't know if Tampa has top players that get it done night in, night out like Boston.
Okay.
Patrice, Pasternak, the Rat. I'm sorry.
Bruins have a way of...
Those 3 guys get it done all the time.
And they all have a way of letting their foot off the gas pedal in moments where they shouldn't. And that's what scares me about that team.
So my question is, Kucherov, Point, what are you doing? Are you guys the best players on the team? That's the question. If you are, then sorry, ding ding. The bell's already rung. You missed round 1. In fact, you were sitting in the corner still while the Bruins were playing.
And they lost the game by 1. I'm telling you, once they turn it on, it's going to be a whole different deal.
Yeah, but
they needed to learn. They needed to learn.
The first goal was a fluke.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Hey, and you know what? That won the game. Even the engines are getting all revved up again.
Anyway, so let's just talk down the road here. We're going to talk conference finals a little bit. And
we got a few minutes.
What that would potentially look like, and then what a cup final would look like.
Well, for me out west, I've got Vegas and Dallas in the final.
Yep.
And then out in the east, I'm at Tampa and Philly. I picked Vegas and Tampa in the final before this all started. I'm sticking with it, and I got the Knights winning the cup, and that's the way I see it going. I did have Vegas beating St. Louis in the West final, but that obviously can't happen now. I did have Tampa beating Philly in the East final, so that's still holding in for me. So, yeah, Vegas over Tampa in the final for me.
I'm going Vegas, Boston.
Okay.
Vegas winning in the final. In fact, that one's going to be a full seven-game war battle. The question I will have with Boston is, can they keep everyone healthy? If they do, then it's going to be that. If not, then Boston's going to have some problems, where I think Vegas can handle a little bit of a thunderbolt and still survive, just because they're built that way. They have, guys like, Stone and Pacioretty, and, just the list goes on. They got Reeves,
You know how much Pacioretty loves Boston, too.
Oh, well, he's just licking his chops, waiting.
Oh, absolutely.
Waiting.
You know those questions they ask the players after every series, which they've kind of gotten away of in the last few years, but who do you want to see in the finals? Who do you want? Oh, we're just, we're going to go do our thing. It really doesn't matter who we play. Pacioretty's like, give me the Bruins.
Yes.
Somebody ask him if they win the West Finals.
Well,
they win the West.
I'm sure they're trying to keep him away from the microphone.
Yeah.
Right? He's the kind of guy you say, all right, Patch, sorry, bud, you're not doing any interviews.
You got to dial it back, pal.
Yeah, you're not going to do any interviews right now. We're just going to keep it at that. Eric, before we kind of wrap up here, the game of hockey is such a great game. It's so fun for fans to watch when you're present.
Mm-hmm.
Hockey on TV is hard for new fans to watch because it's tough to follow the puck. It's tough to follow the play. It's tough to follow the rules. How are we doing there with the game right now? Are we getting new fans to watch right now? Are they watching because there's nothing else to watch? Are they, what are your thoughts there?
It's hard for me to judge because I'm not a new fan, right? But from what I've seen, if I was new and looking at how they did all this with the current circumstances going on, it looks really cool. And if I didn't know what the game was before then, I'd be learning what it is because, first of all, there's a lot of people who aren't working right now. The games were on all day.
All day.
You could turn, the network on at any time and catch a game, or at least a few minutes of a game. And even though there's nobody in the rink, what they did in the video boards and covering all the seats and doing the little pieces here and there with, the guy who's using the pool cleaner to get the pucks off of the seats. Just every little thing that they have done has been the right move these whole playoffs. And I'd be on board if I was new, just looking at what they did.
I have to agree. I think with technology, and part of the reason I asked you this because I believe technology has come so far now. I know maybe 10, 15 years ago. Remember when they put the little blue streak behind the puck so that people could watch?
First of all, as someone who was very young at the time and thought that was great because I thought, oh, look at that. It helped me follow it when I was little. But then you grow up, and when you become an adult and you're a fan, you're like, wow, that was really dumb.
Yeah.
That was really dumb. But it helped me.
So case in point, I think the technology now with the amount of pixels, right? And I don't know if I'm using the correct terminology because I'm not a techie guy kind of guy.
Me neither.
But I think with how clear with how clear that the broadcasts are and the ability for the average or less than average hockey fan to be able to follow the puck, it is so much easier that we are gaining more fan support now, which to me is awesome because the NHL brand and what the NHL does and what the NHL stands for, to me is awesome.
Yeah, the biggest knock I have against it all, and this is something that it may only be one thing, but it's a massive thing. It's the availability of the games to the public. And right now it's not great, right? NBCSN, NBC, NHL Network, that's it. Yeah, I know they expand when they need to and put a game on USA Network here, put a game on CNBC here, or do whatever they need to when there's overflow. Not everybody has NHL Network. But all the other leagues, the NBA, Major League Baseball,
they're everywhere.
Everybody's got ABC to watch the finals. Everybody's got Fox. Everybody's got ESPN. And they all have their own branches of networks out from there. And the television contract for the NHL is about to expire here in what is it, the next year or two? I can't remember.
2 years, I think.
I think it's 2 years.
Yeah.
It's close. And if the popularity starts to grow a little bit, you're going to look at an ESPN, you're going to look at a Fox who's going to jump back in this bidding contest and be like, we want it back. And I say back because ESPN and Fox both had it.
They both had it.
Fox
yes.
is the one who created the trail on the puck.
I know they
I don't
did.
think they'll do that again.
No, I don't think so either.
But all their regional sports networks televise those games throughout the year, and they know what they're doing.
It would be an easy move.
It would be an easy move, and for the innovative techies that are looking for the next best thing,
Yeah.
I think ESPN is probably the most well set up to do it.
It is.
And I think we'd love to hear that Thursday night hockey theme come back.
Yep, I can't disagree with you. So I just want to thank everybody for tuning in here today. Obviously, NHL hockey is something that both Eric and I really enjoy talking about and watching and viewing and being a part of. So for myself, Mike Perkins, for my partner Eric Pestilano, great job today.
Thank you, and don't forget you can go onto social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at CIH Media and leave us your thoughts and comments about this show or about any other topic you want us to talk about in the future.
So for myself, Mike Perkins, for Eric Pestilano, we're coming in hot.